The air hung heavy in the room, thick with unspoken words and a growing sense of dread. It was as if the very walls were whispering secrets, secrets that Sarah could almost hear but not quite understand. The shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own, creating an eerie ballet that only added to her unease. Sarah, usually so vibrant, now moved with a haunted look in her eyes. Her once lively steps were now slow and deliberate, as if she were walking through a thick fog. The sparkle that used to light up her face was replaced by a constant furrowed brow and a distant gaze. She couldn't shake the feeling, the chilling certainty that something was terribly wrong. It gnawed at her, a persistent itch that she couldn't scratch. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the curtains seemed to be a harbinger of some impending doom. It had started subtly, a misplaced item here, a strange noise there. At first, she had dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidences, the kind of things that happen in any home. But as the days went by, the incidents became more frequent, more unsettling. Dismissed at first as mere coincidence, but the incidents were growing more frequent, more unsettling. A book that she was sure she had left on the coffee table would appear on the kitchen counter, the sound of footsteps in the hallway when she was alone in the house. It was as if the house itself was trying to tell her something. Sleep offered no escape, replaced by fitful nights plagued by vivid nightmares. Dreams where she was trapped in her own home, unable to find a way out. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart pounding, the sense of dread even stronger than before. Fear was a venomous serpent, slowly constricting around her heart. It was a constant companion, whispering in her ear, feeding her paranoia. She found herself jumping at the slightest sound, her nerves frayed to the breaking point. She needed answers, proof to validate her growing suspicions, or to dismiss them as figments of a weary mind. She couldn't go on like this, living in a state of perpetual fear. She needed to know if she was losing her mind or if there was something more sinister at play. There was only one way to know for sure. She had to confront her fears head-on, to face whatever it was that was haunting her. It was a terrifying prospect, but she knew she couldn't live in this limbo any longer. With trembling hands, she set up a hidden camera, its unblinking lens pointed at the heart of her unease. She hoped that it would capture something, anything that could explain the strange occurrences. It was a desperate move, but she was out of options. The weight of her decision pressed down on her, a gamble between sanity and a terrifying reality. She sat down, her mind racing with possibilities, each one more frightening than the last. She knew that whatever the camera captured, it would change everything. Nightfall descended, cloaking the house in an eerie silence. The moon hung high, casting a ghostly glow over the landscape, making shadows dance and flicker. The house stood alone, an island of solitude in the sea of darkness. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Sarah lay in bed, her body taut with anticipation. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of movement. The silence was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the old house. She clutched her blanket tightly, her knuckles white with tension. The darkness seemed to press in on her, suffocating and oppressive. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of leaves against the window pane sent shivers down her spine. The house was old and it seemed to come alive at night with its own set of noises and whispers. Each sound was a reminder of her isolation, a cruel taunt in the dead of night. She tried to calm her racing heart, but the fear was relentless. Sleep was a distant dream, replaced by the incessant ticking of the clock, each second an eternity. The clock's hands moved slowly, mocking her with their steady, unyielding pace. She watched the minutes crawl by, each one a reminder of her sleepless torment. The night stretched on, an endless expanse of time and fear. The camera, a silent sentinel in the darkness, recorded everything. It was her only companion in the long, lonely hours of the night. She had installed it for security, but now it seemed to be her only link to the outside world. The red light blinked steadily, a small beacon in the sea of darkness. It watched over her, capturing every moment of her sleepless vigil. Hours crawled by, each one an agonizing testament to her mounting fear. The night seemed endless, a never-ending cycle of anxiety and dread. She watched as the darkness slowly gave way to the faint light of dawn. The first rays of sunlight were a welcome sight, but they did little to ease her fear. The night had left its mark on her, and the fear lingered, a shadow in the back of her mind. Then, just as the first rays of dawn painted the sky, a soft noise barely audible reached her ears. It was a whisper, faint but unmistakable, coming from the living room. Her heart skipped a beat and she strained to hear more. The noise was so soft, so subtle, that she almost thought she had imagined it. But there it was again, a whisper in the silence. It was a whisper, faint but unmistakable, coming from the living room. She held her breath, listening intently. The whisper was soft, almost like a sigh, but it was there. It sent a chill down her spine and she felt a cold sweat break out on her forehead. She knew she had to find out what it was, but the fear held her in place, paralyzing her. Her blood ran cold, she lived alone. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut, and she felt a wave of panic wash over her. She had always felt safe in her home, but now it seemed like a prison, a place of fear and uncertainty. She had to know what was happening, but the fear was overwhelming. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Trembling, Sarah reached for her laptop. Her hands shook as she opened it, the screen casting a pale light in the dark room. She navigated to the camera's footage, her heart pounding in her chest. She had to know what was happening, even if it terrified her. The fear was almost unbearable, but she had to face it. The camera's footage held the answer, the truth she both craved and dreaded. She watched the screen intently, her eyes wide with fear. The footage played, showing the empty living room, the shadows shifting in the dim light. She held her breath, waiting for something to happen. The tension was almost unbearable, but she couldn't look away. Taking a deep breath, she clicked on the video file. The screen flickered and the footage began to play. She watched, her heart in her throat, as the camera revealed the truth, the whisper, the noise, the fear. It all came down to this moment. She braced herself for what she was about to see, knowing that her life would never be the same. The grainy footage flickered to life, revealing the familiar surroundings of her living room bathed in the pale glow of the moon. The room, usually a sanctuary of comfort, now seemed eerie and unwelcoming. The shadows cast by the furniture stretched long and menacing, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. Sarah had always felt safe in her home, but tonight the familiar setting felt alien and threatening. Minutes stretched into an agonizing eternity, filled only with the mundane sounds of the house settling. The creaks and groans of the old house, once a comforting background noise, now seemed ominous and foreboding. Each sound was amplified in the silence, making Sarah's heart race with every creak of the floorboards. She strained her ears, listening for any sign of movement, any indication that she was not alone. And then, it happened. A figure materialized from the shadows, its form indistinct in the dim light. It was as if the darkness itself had taken shape, coalescing into a human-like form. The figure's movements were slow and deliberate, each step echoing in the stillness of the night. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she watched, unable to tear her eyes away from the screen. It moved with an unnatural fluidity, gliding across the room towards the sofa where she usually sat. The way it moved was almost hypnotic, a dance of shadows and light that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. Sarah's mind raced, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Was it a trick of the light? A figment of her imagination? But the figure was too real, too tangible to be dismissed so easily. Panic surged through Sarah, choking her breath as she watched the scene unfold. Her hands trembled, and she could feel the cold sweat forming on her brow. The sense of helplessness was overwhelming, knowing that she was witnessing something she could not control or stop. She wanted to scream, to run, but her body was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. The figure bent down, its face obscured, and seemed to whisper something, its voice a chilling murmur carried on the night air. The words were unintelligible, but the tone was unmistakable, menacing and filled with malice. It was as if the figure was communicating directly with her, even though she knew it was impossible. The whisper sent shivers down her spine, and she felt a cold dread settle in the pit of her stomach. The camera, despite its limitations, captured the bone-chilling moment, a silent witness to the horror unfolding in Sarah's home. The grainy footage, with its flickering shadows and indistinct shapes, seemed to amplify the terror of the scene. It was a stark reminder that sometimes, the most frightening things are those that are just out of focus, lurking in the periphery of our vision. Sarah knew that this night would haunt her forever, a dark memory etched into the fabric of her mind. Sarah watched the footage, her mind rebelling against the images flashing before her eyes. It couldn't be real, it was just a trick of the light, a figment of her overactive imagination. But deep down, she knew the truth. Something was terribly wrong. The figure lingered for a moment longer, then vanished as quickly as it appeared, melting back into the shadows. The footage continued, the silence now deafening in the wake of the ghostly apparition. Frozen in fear, Sarah replayed the clip again and again, each time hoping for a different outcome, a logical explanation. But the truth remained, etched in the cold, unblinking gaze of the camera lens. She was not alone. Section 5. Echoes of Survival. The world, she realized, was a tapestry woven with threads of the extraordinary and the terrifying. Sarah's mind raced, seeking solace in stories of survival against impossible odds. Stories like that of Aaron Ralston, the hiker who amputated his own arm after being pinned by a boulder for days in a remote canyon. Ralston's story, a testament to the indomitable spirit of man, offered a flicker of hope in the face of her own terror. His courage, his sheer will to live, resonated with her own burgeoning determination to confront the unknown that had invaded her sanctuary. Section 6. Trapped beneath the surface. Then there was the harrowing tale of the Chilean miners, trapped for 69 days in the heart of the earth. Buried alive by a massive cave-in, they faced unimaginable darkness, their hope dwindling with each passing hour, yet they refused to surrender. The miners' resilience, their unwavering belief in their own rescue, even when all hope seemed lost, sent a surge of strength through Sarah. They had stared death in the face and emerged victorious. Their story, a beacon of hope, fueled her own resolve to find the strength to face her fears. But perhaps the most powerful tale of survival was that of a mother's love. The story of Anne Elizabeth Hodges, the only confirmed person in history to be struck by a meteorite. The impact, a force of nature, could have easily been fatal. Yet she survived, shielded by the sheer improbability of it all. Some called it luck, others a miracle. But for Sarah, it was a testament to the fierce, unwavering instinct of a mother to protect her own. A reminder that even in the face of unimaginable odds, there was always hope. Section 8. Facing the Unknown. The stories swirled in her mind, each one a testament to the strength of the human spirit. As dawn broke, casting its golden light across the room, Sarah made a decision. She would no longer be a prisoner of fear. She would face the unknown, armed with the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, courage could bloom. The camera footage, once a source of terror, now served as a reminder of her own resilience, her ability to face the unimaginable.
Breaking news.
Section 9. The Strength Within. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but she would not face it alone. She would draw strength from the stories of those who had stared adversity in the face and emerged victorious. For within each of us, she realized, lay the potential for extraordinary courage, the capacity to endure and overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The secret the camera uncovered was terrifying, yes, but it had also awakened a strength within her that she never knew she possessed. And in that realization there was a glimmer of hope, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to survive, to adapt, and to overcome.